Good afternoon. My name is Katie Williams. I currently reside in Levelland, Texas, and I look forward to meeting you all in the future. So I started my office administrative, financial transactions at Bowtie Hunting Ranch. It's in Cameron, Oklahoma, and basically I handled anything that needed to be done. I handled payments of hunts, obtaining of hunting license, any tax documentation that needed to be completed, any licensing. We did exotic animals and we had to obtain them, as well as hogs to make sure that we had a large hog population for those hunts. And due to COVID-19, we were, laid off from that position, and my ex-husband at the time applied to the NRCS, and that located us in Canyon, Texas by Amarillo, where I joined the AFLAC regional office. Our region was Texas West, New Mexico South, and I was the regional asset manager for our regional office. And that position included everything from booking hotels for our district coordinators, planning events for training, minute to win it games. Those are always lots of fun. But we tried to ensure that every month we had a meeting to get all of our agents together, to get all of our district coordinators together. Any district coordinator events, trips, or outings, I was in charge of keeping track of those finances for it, planning, booking hotels, any travel expenses. I was in charge of that. And for the region, I was able to transfer any accounts and assets within the region from one district coordinator and agent to another. I also was the VP of First Impressions, which pretty much meant if they went into our regional office, I was the first person that they saw, and I was able to direct them to the correct agent, admin, or, help them any forms they might need to fill out. And it was a lot of fun. If you've ever seen our AFLAC duck, you know what I mean. But I also handled insurance claims. And with AFLAC, if you're not able to reach your personal agent, you're able to call basically AFLAC corporate and their call center. And sometimes they're hard to get hold of, or they maybe aren't user-friendly. It could, because you're not tied to an individual person every single time. You're tied to whoever's answered this phone. So they would call the regional office, and sometimes they would be less than happy, which is understandable with anything with insurance. These people are going through something difficult, either physically or just sometimes emotionally. And I had this lovely lady call me, and she said that she'd been trying to get a hold of the call center, and she was just about ready to murder somebody. And I told her, "Ma'am, please do not tell me that. I would hate to be an accomplice." And that gave her a laugh, and I was able to listen and understand why she was frustrated, and able to help her get on to the steps that she needed to take to resolve her issue. And I've found out that sometimes when people are upset, you have no idea what's going on in their life. So it's best to give them that moment to vent and air their grievances, and then go from there to see what you can do. And sometimes there's nothing that you can do. It's out of your control, or their claims denied. But sometimes people don't have anyone to listen, and being reactive to that is never a good thing. You just have to provide the best customer service that you possibly can in that instant. So after that, my ex-husband, received a promotion for the NRCS. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped one. I did leave and go to the Tool Creek Soil and Water Conservation Services, and it's basically a county position where you have your district clerk and then you have a board. The board is volunteers, and the district clerk, you're usually the only person. You work hand in hand with the NRCS and assist them in any way that you can. But I was in charge of all the financial documents, collecting financial documents for our annual audit. I kept track of those in QuickBooks, hard receipts, and a ledger. I ran our monthly board meeting. I, wrote the checks that our board members had to sign and assisted the NRCS in any way. It ranged from, collecting files, making copies, collecting documents, and, sometimes it was, just keeping the NRCS office open while everyone else is gone. So that was a wonderful opportunity to get my foot in the NRCS. And my ex-husband, who worked in that same office, got a promotion, so we moved to Levelland. That's where we are now. And during that time, from moving there before I joined the NRCS myself, I worked at McGavick Nissan as their cashier. So any payments that came in, whether it was for your oil change, any parts that you needed, or even down payments on cars, I received those payments, as well as did deposits, consolidations, refunds, and keeping track of any financial transactions that came in. So I feel like I was more of a financial assistant or accounting assistant rather than a cashier. So, and I just felt that was a little bit too hard driving back and forth at the time. It's gotten a lot better now. I don't mind driving back and forth, but it was, having to work weekends, and my kiddos were a little bit younger then, so it wasn't ideal. So I got a lovely position at Foundation Energy Services that's located in Levelland, and it really introduced me to the oil field and having to work with those oil field companies. I did all of Oxy's field tickets, turned them into service orders and then invoices. And that ranged from 20 to 30 tickets a day. Over the weekend, it could get as high as 60. And anything that needed to be done with those, whether it was collecting a PO, increasing that PO, contacting company men or our drivers to ensure the accuracy of those field tickets, I was able to do. So I'm used to, calling people, receiving different instructions, having procedures changed on a whim, it seems. But I appreciate the keeping busy. I am used to some highs and lows, where everything just seems to slow down. But I can work in a male dominant, female dominant. No one's, happier to see you than I am. Let me see. So I found an opportunity with the NRCS. They had an opening, and it's called the Program Support Specialist. And that ranged from answering phones to creating payments to digitally inputting documents and submitting them to their proper places. And my program support specialist had 5 teams. I worked out of the Levelland office, but I had 5 other offices that would, digitally send me their files, and I would, ensure their accuracy, and then, compile them and then submit them into our database that would, either be approved or rejected by our RTL. And, we worked with producers, land producers, agricultural. It's a branch of the USDA. So it's basically government funding, but for agriculture, there was lots of programs where if they qualified, they were able to receive government assistance for agricultural products, as well as grazing programs to ensure that, our natural grasses and basically prevent the next Dust Bowl. So it was a lot of highs and lows because we did have different seasons in which these programs ran. But during that time, I answered phone calls, helped any producers and any other requirements from the NRCS, employees, my counterparts. The reason we were let go was basically the US government is trying to decrease the federal employees. So any federal employee that was there 2 years or lower was let go, whether, didn't matter what doesn't matter the quality of work that we provided or if it was 18 months, we were let go. And thankfully we had the opportunity for a buyout where it continues to pay us until September. And I would definitely be working there if that hadn't happened, as well as all the other probationary employees. So it was something that wasn't due to our performance, it was just across the board. And I'm currently looking for a position. I am going online to Columbia Southern University to get my bachelor's degree in occupational health and safety. While I was working at Foundation Energy Services, it really opened my eyes to something that I could do and had a different avenues in which I could apply that. It's not just an oil field job, it's definitely something that I could apply anywhere and work anywhere in the United States and do it. So, going back to school, I'm currently 33, so going back to school to get that is something I'm really proud of myself for doing, and I want to do what's best for me and my children long term and be able to be financially stable. I went from a stay-at-home mom and my part-time mom jobs to no longer married and having my children 50% of the time, but I'm going to do the best that I possibly can to provide for us and make the best life for us. It's never too late to change and to seek to do better for your oneself, and I think that you're never too old to make it better for yourself, or to do a change, or to do something that inspires you or that you're passionate about. Any change in my occupation due to location was because my ex-husband received a promotion and required us to move. So those are kind of why we're jumped around a little bit, aside from COVID, obviously. But I look forward to meeting you, and I hope to speak with you soon. Y'all have a great day.